consulting editor of the National. This is National Roadshow. We were in Skye earlier on today. It took us a bit longer to get up than we thought, but we eventually arrived at about 2:30, so thanks to those of you who are here tonight that were also there this afternoon. This evening we have with us Stephen Payton at the back of the room, who's our online editor, Suzanne McLaughlin, who is owner of the Bar, Paul Kavanagh, we did the dog, who is going to talk later on as I shut up. I'm going to talk a bit about the beginnings of the National, what we set out to do, where we are now and what our aims are now, a bit about these roadshows, and I guess what our role is in the current political landscape, or what we hope our role is in the current political landscape. I was editor of the Sunday Herald. I think it was about 2005 I got that job. The paper was quite a young paper. It started in 1999. At the start, I suppose, of devolution, just before the Scottish Parliament reconstituted. We viewed ourselves at that time when we started as quite a radical paper, and when I became editor, we were still conforming pretty much to, I guess, the media consensus in Scotland, which was that the Labour Party was our best route to creating the kind of Scotland we wanted to do that. And most newspapers in Scotland bought into that, I suppose. There was the odd one that was conservative, but most were Labour supporters. And we continued to do that. We had discussions quite early on in our life about whether or not we should support independence, and we decided not to. And I, I'm afraid, was one of those who argued against doing that at that time, because I was, I guess, a Labour guy. I think my faith in the Labour Party was destroyed really by Iraq. I think in the Sunday Herald at that time kind of looked on with horror with what was happening in Iraq, and most of the paper staff was opposed to it, to the war. In fact, we had at that time our website had a big American audience, because the American audience couldn't find anything out about Iraq and couldn't really get opinions which were anti-war, because most of the papers there were buying into the idea. So we were starting to look more critically at the Labour Party, and again, not just in Iraq, but some of its policies. Tony Blair's kind of entryism, if you like, into the Labour Party, and we came to the conclusion that the Labour Party was no longer the route to the Scotland we wanted to live in. Around about that same time, we started to look at the constitutional question, and there was the move towards the referendum. And we didn't start off absolutely, as I said, supporting independence, but we started, some of our writers were starting to embrace it. We already had some writers, like Pat Kane was involved in the paper very early on, and he was clearly a pro-independence guy. We had Ian Bell was one of our main columnists, the late great Ian Bell was one of our main columnists, and he was obviously very much pro-independence. And Ian McWhirter, who was our other political columnist at the time, was starting to move that way. Many of our writers in other areas of the paper were also supporting it as well, so we kind of moved towards that. In May 2014, we became the first newspaper in Scotland to actively say that we supported independence, with our Sunday Herald says yes front page. And I have to say that since we did that, the response was so incredible that our relationship with our readers changed pretty much forever, and that we had a huge swell of support, and a lot of people, there was such affection for the newspaper. It was May 2014 for us an incredible experience, and so when I read now about the threat of another independence referendum, threat is just not a word that I would recognise, because it was a completely energising experience for us. Didn't get the result we wanted, which wasn't the 20th of September was not the best day in our lives. It wasn't the best day we'd experienced. We had at that time, we were going to do a big double-page spread, had it been yes, and we were planning all sorts of great things, and we had dismantled those plans pretty much as soon as we knew what the vote was. at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we decided that we were going to put them all back in place, because actually, although it was a no vote, we thought there was still a point to be made. There was still some celebration to be had, because we'd got a good result. We'd got it up to 45, and there was a real prospect that we would achieve independence certainly at some point within our lifetime, which was, a very invigorating thing to think. So we kind of celebrated that, and we had a huge big double-page spread saying how proud we were to give voice to the 45% that voted for yes. And then pretty soon after that, we thought, what can we do that would kind of make things as interesting as they had been in 2014? And we came up with the idea of launching a daily newspaper that supported independence, as you did. The first quick thing we had to do was change the minds of our owners. I don't really know much about who owns newspapers, but we are owned, National is owned by the same company that owns the Sunday Herald and the Herald and the Evening Times. And there are all sorts of issues around that, which I won't go into, but I may refer to later on. Anyway, NewsQuest is one of those organisations that's a media company. It absolutely wants to make money. That's its main aim. It doesn't really have any other aim politically. People believe that and don't believe that. It doesn't tell editors what to do. I had a free choice to take the stance I wanted to take in the referendum. If my sales had gone up, and the sales did go up, that was good for me because I kept my job. Sales had, which at the time was quite important. If sales had gone down, I wouldn't have kept my job, and there would be no hard feelings, but that would have been, bye-bye. So that didn't happen, thankfully. So I had a bit of kudos in the company because the sales had gone up, which was unusual in that landscape. So they thought that, the idea of an independent sporting newspaper was a good idea. From my point of view, I thought it was a good idea because it would help the fight for independence. That is absolutely not what NewsQuest was interested in at all. NewsQuest only saw it as a way to make money, which is, for me, is fine. I think that's fine. But that is what they want. And as long as the National continues to either make money or break even, it will exist. And if it starts to lose money, it won't exist. So that largely is in the hands of our readers. How many of them buy it will depend on how long it lasts. It's fairly straightforward. However, when we started the National, which we did, we had about, 2 or 3 weeks to put together the first dummy of a newspaper. Normally, when you start a new newspaper, you maybe have a year to put things in place. Certainly, when you're in the last stages, you probably have 4 months. 2 weeks wasn't great length of time, but we did do it, which was fantastic. What we wanted to do was have a newspaper that was not just the newspaper of the SNP, but was a newspaper of the wider movement. And so that's why we had columnists like Leslie Riddoch, like Pat, like Paul, who are not necessarily SNP members, as well as people in our pages that were SNP members, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't just a mouthpiece of a partner of the party. And I'm really pleased we did that now, because in the current landscape, what seems to me to be the case is that the SNP, they won the last election. I don't think we need to minimise that. I don't think we need to behave like losers, because the SNP is not a losing party. It won the election, it won it substantially. It has a majority of MPs in Scotland, so there's no argument about that. It did lose seats though, so it needs to address that issue. So the SNP have currently things to do. I think Nicola Sturgeon's last speech will open the door to the wider movement to pick up the cudgels, if you like, of campaigning for independence currently. Not that the SNP will not support independence, of course it will support independence. It will obviously campaign for independence in the future, it will, but right now it's got other issues to deal with. So the movement, the wider movement, is going to have to, gird its loins and get into the fray and do the work that the SNP previously did, and no longer look to the SNP to do everything for us. Personally, I think that's a great opportunity. For the National, it's a great opportunity because we need a newspaper that reflects that drive for independence, reflects all the things that are happening within the movement, and gives voice to those people that are working for independence, and to create a place to debate, because there are debates to be had about what kind of independence we want, and why we want it, and what kind of country we want to build. So for me, I think those are really important debates to be had. The National is hopefully the best place to have them, and I hope people here agree with that. I mean, we have the national roadshows, this is one of them. We go around the whole country and we talk to our readers. I have to tell you that the relationship between pardon me, the National and its readers is a very unusual one for newspapers. We have people working, you're working on the desk sometimes at the National, and the phone will ring, and you'll answer, and it's a reader, and they're only phoning to say, thank you very much for existing. I have to tell you, I've worked in many, many newspapers. It's not normal for that. Don't ever remember it happening in the Daily Record, to be honest. Maybe it happens in it. However, it's a very heartwarming relationship, and you have to believe me when I tell you that we value it incredibly highly. And when we go round, we decided to go around to try and talk to our readers on a more personal basis. And with the roadshows that we've done, I've done a number of them, they are great experience for us, getting to talk to readers, finding out what they think of the paper, what they like, what they don't like. Generally, the level of discussion we have is incredibly high and incredibly important to us. So, thank you very much for everything you've done for us. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. I think we'll talk later on, hopefully, in the question and answer sessions, which we'll have after Paul speaks. But in the meantime, I'll introduce you to the Ginger Dog.
I'm not actually the Ginger Dog, I'm Paul. That's Ginger. I usually take second billing to the dog. Actually, I'm doing a talk for the National in Aberdeen in a couple of weeks, and the headline speaker is going to be Alex Allen. And Carol, who's currently the editor of the National, contacted me to say, because usually when I do the talk for the National, I'm the only speaker. And he says, you're going to be taking second billing to Alex Salmon. And I went, well, that's a kind of promotion, because usually I'd take second billing to a dog. I wasn't actually at the stall today, because it took me a lot longer to get up from Glasgow than I anticipated. I was stuck behind camper vans all the way up the road, dawdling along at 30 miles an hour. We had a huge big tail of traffic behind them and nobody in front of them for miles. And obviously the person in the front of the camper van was going, God, these roads are so quiet. But for that reason, it took me a long time to get up here. But I'm really glad I came. This is the second time I've been to Skye. I was here in November, I think it was, last year. When the weather was absolutely minging. We did a talk down in the Sliggerton Hotel. It was really, really good. And then when the National said, we wanted to do another talk in Skye, I was like, aye, sure. And then 5 minutes later it was like, shite, I need to think of new jokes, I need to think of new things to say. But what I've been doing over the past couple of years, really, I mean, the whole independence movement has kind of taken over my entire life, which isn't anything I ever anticipated. I'm very grateful that Richard offered me a chance to write for the National, because blogging's hard work in order to make a living. There's a donations button at the end of every article on the blog. I don't do fundraisers like some bloggers do. And I'm extremely grateful for any donations that people give me to the blog, but it's not enough to live on. It's not a reliable source of income. And it's writing for the National, because they pay me, that allows me to be a full-time blogger. And one of the things I think Richard never pointed out, which is really important and why we need to support the National and other publications like it, is because they do support a community of pro-independence writers, talkers, speakers, campaigners. And without publications like the National, it would be an awful lot harder for people like me, for people like Leslie, in order to campaign for independence. So that's a very important reason for supporting the National, because they do, that's writing for the National is kind of my bread and butter. That's what allows me to do talks all over Scotland, because I never charge a speaker's fee. And I know that it's the same with an awful lot of other campaigners. We're not doing this because we want to make money. We're doing it because we're passionate about this country that we live in, this strange, screwed up little place called Scotland that we all love, and we want to make a better place. Myself, and I'm sure for most of you in this room, the reason that you want independence isn't because you think that Scotland is such a fantastic place, Scotland's such a great place, Scotland's the best country in the world. It's not about that. Independence is for a reason, and the reason is to make this country better than it is, to make this country better than we've got at the moment. Because I was born and brought up in the East End of Glasgow, and it was only actually the very first time I went abroad when I was about 17, 18, and I was in the Netherlands. And it was there that I was in an area that I thought was really nice and really middle class and really douce. And the Dutch guy I was with then warned me that be careful because this is a really bad area. It struck me the contrast between what they thought was a bad area in the Netherlands and what I thought was a bad area in the East End of Glasgow. And it shocked me, because we'd always been told that we were one of the richest countries in the world, that Britain was one of the most powerful and influential countries in the world. A country, moreover, which had only recently back then, this was in the late 70s, early 80s, which had struck oil. And yet here we were faced with this appalling social deprivation and injustice and inequality, and we think it's normal because we're brought up with that. And it's not normal. And it made me realise then that, if we want to do something about this country, if we want to do something to make this country a better place, we want to improve living standards for ordinary people, we have to do it ourselves, because nobody's going to do it for us. Independence, self-determination starts with the self. I never became politicised because of involvement in the Scottish independence movement. That came much, much later for me. This was around, like I said, late 70s, early 80s. I was coming out as gay, I was coming to terms with my sexuality, and it was at a time when the AIDS crisis had just burst upon the scene. My first lover died of HIV, so there was a whole lot of other issues for me that were far more important and far more directly relevant to my life. And I got politicised in the campaign for lesbian and gay rights. And in that campaign I met a much older guy. He was about 30 years older than me. He'd been campaigning for lesbian and gay equality since the early 1960s, when it was still illegal. He was doing it. And he taught me a really valuable and important lesson, which stays with me to this day and which I still take into my campaign for Scottish independence. It informs my campaign for Scottish independence. He told me the campaign for lesbian and gay equality is a campaign for equality. And if you believe that you are the equal of everybody else, act as though you are. And when you act as though you're equal, you become equal. And that's what we need to do in the campaign for Scottish independence. Because Scotland is a country. We are a sovereign state. We are a sovereign people, and we can be a sovereign state. And if we want to become that, we need to act as though we are. If we believe that we are, we act as we are, and then we become it. And that's the way that we will achieve Scottish independence, because it's an act of self-belief. Self-determination starts with the self. It starts with you making your own personal declaration of independence in your head, and then acting on it and campaigning for Scottish independence. Now, I'm sure my own reasons for wanting Scottish independence, the kind of independent Scotland I want, might not be this independent Scotland that John Mason LSP wants, or lots of other people. We all have our own very individual and unique reasons for wanting independence. The same, of course, is true for unionists. Unionists, people who support the union, I'm sure, have their own unique reasons for why they support the union, why they're opposed to Scottish independence. If you just think about TV commentators, for example, Neil Oliver, he opposes Scottish independence because he says he doesn't like nationalism. British nationalism, of course, doesn't count. Then there's Dan Snow. He opposes Scottish independence because his wife's family have got a Highland holiday property the size of West Lothian. And then there's Ben Fogle. He opposes Scottish independence because he thinks he's a mountain in Argyll. Scottish independence is a very unique thing, it's a very special thing, it's a very personal thing. And you have to tap into your own reasons for wanting Scottish independence and act on them. Because independence will only come about by action. It won't come about by us sitting on our backsides and waiting for permission the campaign, because when you think about it, it's kind of totally illogical. You know, that we want independence, but we have to wait for permission in order to campaign for independence. If you believe in independence, act independently. Don't wait for anybody to tell you that you can. Just do it. And over the past few months, over the past year or so, I've been giving talks up and down the whole of Scotland to people involved in the independence movement, to Yes groups, to SNP groups, to Green groups, to people in the Commonweal, all sorts of different groups campaigning for independence. And what I'm finding is that the appetite for Scottish independence remains undiminished. But at the moment, people are feeling a bit we're drifting a bit. And I think possibly one of the reasons for that was for too long, for the past year or so, we were putting all our eggs in the SNP basket. Now, I'm not wanting to criticise the SNP, but the problem with associating independence with one single political party is that the idea of independence then becomes subject to party political attack. So we've seen recently, for example, concerted unionist attacks on, for example, the SNP's management of Scottish education or the SNP's management of the health service. Now, irrespective of how any single political party manages health or education or any other devolved power, that's completely irrelevant to the wider question of Scottish independence. Because when Scotland becomes independent, and it's when, it's not an if, when Scotland becomes independent, other political parties will be available. You don't have to have an SNP government. I actually put that point to, what's his name? James Kelly, NSP.
James Kelly,
I went to, my late partner, he was in the hospital at the time, so I was actually able to get out of the house, and I went to a debate in Parkhead about independence. It was just a week or so before, 2 weeks before the vote. And it was Libby MacArthur, the actress, was putting the case for independence, and she was really good. She talked about independence and what independence is about. And then James Kelly, who's the only man on the entire planet who's able to make Ian Gray seem charismatic, he just went on and he talked about this for a whole hour in his monotone voice, and he talked about SNP housing policy and how many council houses the SNP have built. And he went on for a whole, and we were all like, oh God. And I think I was beginning to think that that's how he wants to win the independence referendum, by boring everybody. And I got really angry, and at the end, you know, when we had a chance to put questions, and he actually accused me of being an SNP client. And I said, you know, I'm really angry because you've just wasted my time. Because I came here expecting to hear, you know, arguments for and against Scottish independence, about the big picture. And all you've done is talk about SNP housing policy. What the hell does that have to do with independence? Don't you think that when Scotland becomes independent, that if Scotland's independent, fair? It's difficult to tell the blank look on James Kelly's face. He normally has, but he has a blank look on his face. And he realised then that the idea simply hadn't occurred to him that in an independent Scotland his party could be the government, you know, because they associated so closely with the SNP. But for us as a movement, that's precisely why we have to disengage, not disengage, but that's the wrong word, but we have to distinguish between the broader Yes movement and the aims of the Yes movement from the aims of the SNP. They are overlapping, but they're not identical. The SNP is a government. They're a political party who wants to govern. And they will have a whole range of policies on a particular set of, you know, areas on health, on education, on transport, on whatever. And those are all well and good, and we maybe support them or we maybe don't, but they're not actually about independence. Now, one of the things that I found very frustrating during the first independence referendum, and I really love saying the first independence referendum because it's not going to be the last independence referendum. The next one will be the last one because we won't need another one after that because we're going to win it. But the first independence referendum, we spent so much time on the back foot because we were having to talk about specific SNP policies. Now, I'm not an economist, you know, I've been the first person to admit that. I don't know much about economics, but I really didn't like the policy that the SNP was putting forward about a currency union. Because now, a friend of mine who is an economist says that that was the most sensible policy. It was the best policy. It created the least amount of disruption for both economies, and it was the most sensible strategy. And I'm quite convinced that despite what the Unionists were saying, after Scottish independence, they would have agreed to a currency union because it would have been in their interest to do so. But the fact was that during an independence referendum, when we are saying we want independence from you, Westminster, oh, by the way, we would like you to cooperate with us in this key area of our economic policy, we were giving them a big open goal to say, no, we're no body. I mean, if I was in the No campaign, that's exactly what I would have done as well. You know? And that's, of course, what they did. And that was then we were constantly put on the back foot by that. Now, I've always felt that what we needed was a policy that says that Westminster needs our cooperation, not we need Westminster's cooperation. Because independence means to do it for yourself. It means not to be reliant on other people. It means not to depend on other people to do you favours. It doesn't mean that you can't do favours for other people. And that was why I was in favour of a separate Scottish currency, and I would hope that the SNP would move towards that position, that we had a clearly articulated stance on a separate Scottish currency, because if we do that, then that means that we don't have a stake in the Bank of England anymore. Now, when the Unionists are talking to us about this £15 million deficit that we're supposed to have, the GERS figures, the Government Expenditure and Revenue Scotland. Actually, to be honest, I always thought that the GERS figures were called the GERS figures, not because it was Government Expenditure and Revenue Scotland, but because, like GERS, the football team, they were a work of fiction for tax purposes. They always tell us that there's this £15 billion deficit. Now, when you look at that deficit, the amount of money that's spent in Scotland and the amount of money that GERS says, now Richard Murphy, the economist, says that these figures are completely inaccurate, and probably the amount of revenue that's raised in Scotland is considerably higher than what GERS is. They're broadly the same. The deficit comes about from government spending outside Scotland that the UK government applies to Scotland, and also a significant chunk of it is interest repayments on the UK's eye-watering national debt. A significant chunk of which is money that's owed to the Bank of England for quantitative easing. Now, the Bank of England is a wholly owned subsidiary of the UK Treasury, and what happens now with that money is basically it's a form of money laundering, essentially. The Bank of England created this money out of nothing. They gave it to the UK Treasury, which gave it to the banks. It's then repaid to the Bank of England with interest, and then because the Bank of England is completely owned by the UK Treasury, it pays it back to the UK Treasury. And what the Unionists are telling us with this £15 billion deficit is that after Scottish independence, we will still be expected to pay money to the UK Treasury. But if Scotland doesn't have a stake in the Bank of England because we're setting up our own currency, we can turn around and say to them, we're setting up our own currency and you can stick your national debt up your arse. And this is one of the reasons why I won't be negotiating Scottish independence. But it then puts the onus on them to say to us, well, you know, what are you prepared to take? And basically we should take on such, you know, there's an argument to be made that Scotland shouldn't take on any of the UK's debt at all. You know, and we'd go into the interview, we'd start off as a new nation, you know, that we'd have to pay higher interest rates than the bank than currently the United Kingdom enjoys. Although, of course, one of the things that they told us during the first independence referendum was that we'd lose the AAA rating that the UK enjoys. So that's going the way of the dodo anyway. So, but we might have to pay higher interest rates, but we won't have any debt to service, so we'll be paying a lower amount. So, you know, win-win, really. But what we have to do now is to articulate a good case for independence. We can focus again on the case for independence. Over the past year or so, I think we've had too much attention has been paid to the process and not the outcome. We've been talking about a referendum instead of talking about independence. And what we need to do is to start talking about independence and what independence can achieve and what independence is for, rather than talking about a referendum. Because then that just puts us on the back foot, and all we get from the union is, people don't want a referendum, we don't want a referendum. Now, It's certainly the case that there is a significant proportion of the Scottish population that we will never persuade at all. And what we've got to do is to focus on those people whose minds are persuadable, whose minds can be changed. My father, unfortunately, is one of those that is a lost cause. My mum's a big independent supporter. My dad, who's 80, he's your archetypal, typical West of Scotland Catholic. And after the independence referendum, I says to him, well, what did you vote no for? Because he said he voted no. What did you vote no for? And he said, and I quote, because I don't want to be ruled by Presbyterians. And then Theresa May announced that she was doing a deal with the DUP. And I said to my dad the other week, so how's that not being ruled by Presbyterians working out for you, Dad? Stop it, Mum, stop it, just stop it. But there's certain people that will never ever persuade, there's certain people that will never change their minds. And you need to, don't waste your time on them. I've got an enormous block list on Twitter. It's longer than Stu Campbell's. But I don't get into arguments with people with union flags and their avatars on Twitter. I made a mistake of doing that once, actually, because I talk about independence a lot, and I rant about independence a lot. And you get abuse for that on social media. I don't do Twitter on Tuesdays and Wednesdays anymore. Because my article for the National is published on a Wednesday, and on the Tuesday they publish a push quote on Twitter, which is like 2 sentences for the article that's going to be in the paper the next day. And immediately my timeline on Twitter is full of abuse from unionists about this article that they've not actually read. But I made this mistake the other, and I usually just block them. But that's nothing, the abuse you get for politics is nothing compared to the abuse you get when you start to talk about Scottish languages. Like when you talk about Gaelic and you talk about Scots, it's this torrent of abuse you get because they get really, really upset about it. Now, one of the things I'm doing just now is I'm doing these Gaelic maps because I'm fascinated by the Gaelic language and by Scots. I study linguistics at university, it's a passion I've had all my life. And I wrote a thing in my blog about how I was doing these Gaelic maps of the Lowlands. You know, I was doing a Gaelic map of Glasgow and a Gaelic map of Fife. Because what sparked off my interest in languages when I was discovering that all these place names round about where I was brought up that are just kind of collections of nonsense syllables, you know, like Auchinshugel and Barachne and Bargedi. And they actually mean things in Gaelic. And that fascinated me, you know, Gartsherry, Garnkirk. Garnkirk is Garshman Kirk, the church, the farm of the chickens. Barachne, where I was born, is Baruchne, which is the Henry Hill. Auchinshugel, which is the famous, you know, bus stop, tram stop in the East End of Glasgow, is Auchinshugel, which is the rye field in Glasgow. And it's fascinated me to discover this. And when I was a kid, so about 7 or 8, and I asked my mum, is there a Gaelic map of Glasgow so I can see what all these names are? And she laughed. Don't be ridiculous, I can't be stupid. So, because I'd been living in Spain for a long time, you know, and my Gaelic got really, really bad. I did a Gaelic O-level and a Gaelic higher, learners O-level and learners higher, and then moved away from Scotland and promptly forgot it all, and decided that a good way to get back into the language again would be to research place names and do these maps that I'd always wanted, because my attitude to independence, and the same as my attitude to Gaelic maps, is if you want something done, do it yourself. So I was doing it myself, and I thought, right, if I start to research all these place names, it'll be a good way to get fluency back in the language. Unfortunately, what I've now discovered is that due to the nature of place names, I'm now shit hot in medieval agricultural terminology. But I've been doing these Gaelic maps, and I published it on the blog there a few weeks snippets just to see if there was any interest, and there was a huge amount of interest in it. And I got this abuse from this unionist person, a woman who lives in Kirkintilloch, according to her Twitter bio. With a union flag and an avatar going about this. This waste of money, it's outrageous. And I was going, what do you mean? It's like, I'm doing this in my time. You've not been asked to buy it, you've not been asked to pay for it. So what are you talking about? Don't talk rubbish. And then she decided, after realising that it wasn't a waste of her money at all, she decided that the reason it was a waste of time was because Gaelic's never been spoken in the Lowlands. She said the woman from Kirkintilloch, Caercial, Troich, the fort at the end of the Green Hill. Gaelic's never been spoken in the Lowlands. It's never been spoken, and I recited to her some of these Gaelic place names that I've told you, Lowland Gaelic place names. And I said to her, so where do these place names come from? You know, if these Gaelic policemen, where do they come from? If Gaelic's ever been spoken in the Lowlands, and she said, ScotRail. And that's the point we just made. But there are people like that, you know, and sometimes, despite your best intentions, you find it fair. It's difficult to tell the blank look on James' face. He normally has, but he had a blank look on his face. And it realised then that the idea simply hadn't occurred to him that in an independent Scotland his party could be the government, you know, because they associated so closely with the SNP. But for us as a movement, that's precisely why we have to disengage, not disengage, well that's the wrong word, but we have to distinguish between the broader Yes movement and the aims of the Yes movement from the aims of the SNP. They are overlapping, but they're not identical. The SNP is a government. They're a political party who wants to govern. And they will have a whole range of policies on a particular set of, you know, areas on health, on education, on transport, on whatever. And those are all well and good, and we maybe support them or we maybe don't, but they're not actually about independence. Now, one of the things that I found very frustrating during the first independence referendum, and I really love saying the first independence referendum because it's not going to be the last independence referendum. The next one will be the last one because we won't need another one after that because we're going to win it. But the first independence referendum, we spent so much time on the back foot because we were having to talk about specific SNP policies. Now, I'm not an economist, you know, I've been the first person to admit that. I don't know much about economics, but I really didn't like the policy that the SNP was putting forward about a currency union. Because now, a friend of mine who is an economist says that that was the most sensible policy. It was the best policy. It created the least amount of disruption for both economies, and it was the most sensible strategy. And I'm quite convinced that despite what the Unionists were saying, after Scottish independence, they would have agreed to a currency union because it would have been in their interest to do so. But the fact was that during an independence referendum, when we are saying we want independence from you, Westminster, oh, by the way, we would like you to cooperate with us in this key area of our economic policy, we were giving them a big open goal to say, no, we're not going to. I mean, if I was in the No campaign, that's exactly what I would have done as well. You know? And that's, of course, what we did. And that was then we were constantly put on the back foot by that. Now, I've always felt that what we needed was a policy that says that Westminster needs our cooperation, not we need Westminster's cooperation. Because independence means to do it for yourself. It means not to be reliant on other people. It means not to depend on other people to do you favours. It doesn't mean that you can't do favours for other people. And that was why I was in favour of a separate Scottish currency, and I would hope that the SNP would move towards that position, that we had a clearly articulated stance on a separate Scottish currency, because if we do that, then that means that we don't have a stake in the Bank of England anymore. Now, when the Unionists are talking to us about this £15 million deficit that we're supposed to have, the GERS figures, the Government Expenditure and Revenue Scotland. Actually, to be honest, I always thought that the GERS figures were called the GERS figures, not because it was Government Expenditure and Revenue Scotland, but because, like GERS, the football team, they were a work of fiction for tax purposes. They always tell us that there's this £15 billion deficit. Now, when you look at that deficit, the amount of money that's spent in Scotland and the amount of money that GERS says, now Richard Murphy, the economist, says that these figures are completely inaccurate, and probably the amount of revenue that's raised in Scotland is considerably higher than what GERS is. They're broadly the same. The deficit comes about from government spending outside Scotland that the UK government applies to Scotland, and also a significant chunk of it is interest repayments on the UK's eye-watering national debt. A significant chunk of which is money that's owed to the Bank of England for quantitative easing. Now, the Bank of England is a wholly owned subsidiary of the UK Treasury, and what happens now with that money is basically it's a form of money laundering, essentially. The Bank of England created this money out of nothing. They gave it to the UK Treasury, which gave it to the banks. It's then repaid to the Bank of England with interest. And then because the Bank of England is completely owned by the UK Treasury, it pays it back to the UK Treasury. And what the Unionists are telling us with this £15 billion deficit is that after Scottish independence, we will still be expected to pay money to the UK Treasury. But if Scotland doesn't have a stake in the Bank of England because we're setting up our own currency, we can turn around and say to them, we're setting up our own currency and you can stick your national debt up your arse. And this is one of the reasons why I won't be negotiating Scottish independence. But it then puts the onus on them to say to us, well, you know, what are you prepared to take? And basically we should take on such, you know, there's an argument to be made that Scotland shouldn't take on any of the UK's debt at all. You know, and yeah, sure, we'd go into the interview, we'd start off as a new nation, you know, that we'd have to pay higher interest rates than currently the United Kingdom enjoys. Although, of course, one of the things that they told us during the first independence referendum was that we'd lose the AAA rating that the UK enjoys. So that's going the way of the dodo anyway. So. But we might have to pay higher interest rates, but we won't have any debt to service, so we'll be paying a lower amount. So, you know, win-win, really. But what we have to do now is to articulate a good case for independence. We can focus again on the case for independence. Over the past year or so, I think we've had too much attention has been paid to the process and not the outcome. We've been talking about a referendum instead of talking about independence. And what we need to do is to start talking about independence and what independence can achieve and what independence is for, rather than talking about a referendum. Because then that just puts us on the back foot, and all we get from the union is, people don't want a referendum, we don't want a referendum. Now, it's certainly the case that there is a significant proportion of the Scottish population that we will never persuade at all. And what we've got to do is to focus on those people whose minds are persuadable, whose minds can't be changed. My father, unfortunately, is one of those that is a lost cause. My mum's a big independence supporter. My dad, who's 80, he's your archetypal, typical West of Scotland Catholic. And after the independence referendum, I said to him, well, what did you vote no for? Because he said he voted no. What did you vote no for? And he said, and I quote, because I don't want to be ruled by Presbyterians. And then Theresa May announced that she was doing a deal with the DUP. And I said to my dad the other week, so how's that not being ruled by Presbyterians working out for you, Dad? Stop it, Mum, stop it, just stop it. But there's certain people that will never ever persuade, there's certain people that will never change their minds. And you need to, don't waste your time on them. I've got an enormous block list on Twitter, as long as it's 2 candles. But I don't get into arguments with people with union flags and their avatars on Twitter. I made the mistake of doing that once, actually, because I mean, I talk about independence a lot, and I rant about independence a lot. And you get abuse for that on social media. I don't do Twitter on Tuesdays and Wednesdays anymore. Because my article for the National is published on a Wednesday, and on the Tuesday they publish a push quote on Twitter, which is like 2 sentences for the article that's going to be in the paper the next day. And immediately my timeline on Twitter is full of abuse from unionists about this article that they've not actually read. But I made this mistake the other, and I usually just block them. But that's nothing. The abuse you get for politics is nothing compared to the abuse you get when you start to talk about Scottish languages. Like when you talk about Gaelic and you talk about Scots, it's this torrent of abuse you get because they get really upset about it. Now, one of the things I'm doing just now is I'm doing these Gaelic maps because I'm fascinated by the Gaelic language and by Scots. I study linguistics at university. It's a passion I've had all my life. And I wrote a thing in my blog about how I was doing these Gaelic maps of the roads. You know, I was doing a Gaelic map of Glasgow and a Gaelic map of Fife. Because what sparked off my interest in languages when I was discovering that all these place names round about where I was brought up that are just kind of collections of nonsense syllables, you know, like Auchinshugel and Barachne and Bargedi. And they actually mean things in Gaelic. And that fascinated me, you know, Gartsherry, Garnkirk. Garnkirk is Garshnankirk, the church, the farm of the chickens. Barachne, where I was born, is Baruchne, which is the Heathery Hill. Auchenshoogle, which is the famous bus stop, tram stop in the East End of Glasgow, is Auchenshoogle, which is the rye field in Glasgow. And it's fascinated me to discover this. And when I was a kid, so I was 7 or 8, and I asked my mum, is there a Gaelic map of Glasgow so I can see what all these names are? And she laughed. Don't be ridiculous. I can't be stupid. So, because I've been living in Spain for a long time, and my Gaelic got really, really bad. I did a Gaelic O level and a Gaelic higher, learners O level and learners higher, and then moved away from Scotland and promptly forgot it all, and decided that a good way to get back into the language again would be to research place names and do these maps that I'd always wanted, because my attitude to independence, and the same as my attitude to Gaelic maps, is if you want something done, do it yourself. So I was doing it myself, and I thought, right, if I start to research all these place names, it'll be a good way to get fluency back in the language. Unfortunately, what I've now discovered is that due to the nature of place names, I'm now shit hot in medieval agricultural terminology. But I've been doing these Gaelic maps, and I published it on the blog a few weeks snippets just to see if there was any interest, and there was a huge amount of interest in it. And I got this abuse from this unionist person, a woman who lives in Kirkintilloch, according to her Twitter bio. With a union flag in her avatar, wrote about this. This waste of money, it's outrageous. And I was going, what do you mean? It's like, I'm doing this in my time. You've not been asked to buy it, you've not been asked to pay for it. So what are you talking about? Don't talk rubbish. And then she decided, after realising that it wasn't a waste of her money at all, she decided that the reason it was a waste of time was because Gaelic's never been spoken in the Lowlands. She said the woman from Kirkintilloch, Caerkill, Troich, the fort at the end of the Green Hill. Gaelic's never been spoken in the Lowlands. It's never been spoken, and I recited to her some of these Gaelic place names that I've told you, Lowland Gaelic place names. And I said to her, so where do these place names come from? If these Gaelic place names, where do they come from? If Gaelic's never been spoken in the Lowlands. And she said, ScotRail. And that's the point of this thing. But there are people like that, and sometimes, despite your best, you find yourself getting sucked in. But it's a waste of time. And what we need to do to be an effective campaign for Scottish independence, you need to identify the time wasters and just shut them out. Fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm not going to waste any time arguing with you. Concentrate your efforts, concentrate your energies on people who do have genuine doubts, who do have genuine fears, who are open to persuasion. Because everybody, like I said, has got their own unique set of reasons for opposing Scottish independence, for supporting Scottish independence. What struck me, actually, during the first independence referendum campaign was the number of people who told me that they weren't opposed to the idea of independence in theory, but they had doubts about the finances, or they had doubts about Scotland's ability to stand by itself, or a whole lot of other reasons that they had. And what we need to do is to target those people and find out what they individually think and fear, and give them the information and the reassurances that we need. Because we talk an awful lot about the media, but everybody in this country, everybody, it doesn't matter what demographic you belong to, there's a hierarchy of trust with information that people receive. And it's kind of proportionate to, partly it's proportionate to the amount of energy and effort that's expended in getting the information out. So, for example, people will tend to trust television news more than they trust print news, because it costs more money to produce a TV programme than it does to produce something in print. And they tend to trust things that they read in print more than things that they read online, because it costs more to produce print than it does to publish something online. Online tends to be the least trusted of all. But irrespective of any of that, the thing that people trust most of all is information that's given to them by people that they already know and trust. Because that bond of trust has already been established, because you already know this person. And that's the great advantage that we have as a grassroots campaign that the unionists don't possess. Because they're dependent on blanketing the airwaves with a single message of negativity. What we're able to do as an independence campaign, a grassroots mass movement independence campaign, is to deliver tailored messages of independence to each individual in the country, because we've got the numbers and the people on the ground to be able to do that. And that's what we have to organise ourselves to do over the coming year or so. Because make no mistake, what we are talking about now isn't if Scotland should become an independent country. We're talking about when Scotland becomes an independent country. An awful lot of the reasons that Scotland should have stayed a part of the United Kingdom have now been destroyed by the Unionists themselves. We know all about, for example, what happened with the European Union. We know the frigates that were promised on the Clyde, the 13 Type 26 frigates, the number was reduced to 8, and then the number was reduced to 3. The 3,000 jobs in the tax offices in East Kilbride and Cumbernauld, they've gone. Time and time again, all the promises and commitments that the Unionists said that they were going to make have fallen by the wayside. Now, the biggest single argument that they had in their favour the last time was why risk the stability and security of the United Kingdom for the uncertainty of independence. The biggest insecurity and instability we face now is the United Kingdom. Because we don't know what's going to happen next week, never mind what's happening next month, never mind what's happening in 2 years' time. And that's why the calls of the Tories and the Labour Party that an independence referendum must be taken off the table for good must always be resisted. Because we're in a time of huge uncertainty, and we're in a time of huge uncertainty caused by those parties. And it would be irresponsible of any Scottish government that supports independence to take the option of independence off the table at the moment, because we don't know what's going to happen in a couple of years' time. Now, I don't want to have an independence referendum just now. I want to have an independence referendum when we are going to win it. I'm convinced that the next time that we do have an independence referendum, and we will have another independence referendum, we will win it. But the time to have it is when there is an overwhelming clamour in favour of independence. We can't sit back and rely on the British state to self-destruct. And I think really that's been the strategy up till now. And to be honest, the British state has been doing a very good job of self-destructing. But that's not translating into support for independence. Because we have to join the dots for people. At the moment you'll hear people say, I don't want to talk about independence, I want to talk about jobs, I want to talk about, housing, I want to talk about health. But talking about independence is talking about housing and health and jobs and employment. That's what independence is about. It's about securing those things. It's about creating the kind of country that's fit for us children, for our grandchildren, for generations yet to come, so that we don't face the kind of insecurities that we all face. I mean, we're now in a situation where, for the first time ever, I think, certainly for the first time in living in the past couple of 100 years, the younger generations are now facing greater poverty than their parents. They're facing immense problems of getting on the housing ladder. They have huge problems. I mean, the concept of a job for life has vanished. When people like my dad left school, he could walk into a job and think that he could keep that job until he retired. And that's pretty much what happened. It's pretty much what happened with my mum. Certainly it won't happen with me. It won't happen with your kids. It won't happen with your grandchildren. But if we want to change that, the only way we can do that is to do it ourselves. Because nobody's going to do it for us. We have to take our own destiny in our own hands and to shape it ourselves. And we've got the skills and the talent and the ability to do that. The only thing that's holding us back is self-belief. Now, you're all in this room because you already believe. And we have to take that belief to other people, because hope can be contagious. And that was the message in the first independence referendum. And for me, that was the huge thing that really inspired me, because, like I said, I've come from the East End of Glasgow, where people are born cynical and get more cynical the older that they get, And for the very first time in my life, I saw people enthused and engaged about politics in places like Easterhouse, in places like Parkhead, in places like Dalmarnock. I'd never seen that before. All I'd ever heard from people in those areas was, it doesn't matter who you vote for, we still get shite. But they actually believed, they actually knew that an independence referendum, their voice mattered, their voice counted, they could shape the future of Scotland, they could make it a better place. And once you've learned how to hope, you don't ever forget that, because despair is finite, but hope is infinite. And hope lasts forever. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep that flame of hope alive. We need to infect the rest of the country with it. And we need to articulate a message of independence that's going to set this country ablaze, that's going to set this country on fire in a good way, in a positive way, that's going to inspire people with hope, with the sense that things can change, that things can be better, that we don't have to sit passively by and have shit dumped on us from a Westminster government that really doesn't care. You know, I mean, I watched the whole Brexit thing. I really didn't want to be here now talking about Brexit. I really didn't want that. I wanted because I don't hate England, I don't hate the English, I wouldn't have wished that on anybody, this epic act of self-harm that's been committed. But it's given us the opportunity to talk about independence. But, you know, I watched the results come in, and it was Boris Johnson and Michael Gove the next day, and they gave a press conference. And they were utterly clueless, you know. They looked like two guilty schoolboys that had nipped behind the bike sheds for a fag and had accidentally burned the school down. That's what they looked like, because they had gone into that campaign with the goal of raising their profile in the Conservative Party. They didn't expect to win. For them it was all about raising their own profile within the Conservative Party and the Eurosceptics in the Tory Party. And once they actually had one, they didn't have the foggiest idea about what was going to happen next. You know, and I got quite angry because all the way through the independence campaign, we were constantly being told, what's your plan B? What's your plan B? And this pair of Muppets didn't have a plan A. You know, the broad shoulders of the United Kingdom do not have a functioning brain on them. And that's where we are now. You know, we are in a dysfunctional state. We are in Scotland. What passes for Scottish democracy is at the moment we have a government that we didn't vote for, in alliance with a party that we can't vote for, implementing something that we voted against. That's where we are in Scotland, and that's why we need independence. Because that's an insult to democracy. If we genuinely believe, and we do believe, that we are a nation, that we are a sovereign body, that our voice does count, our voice does matter, we cannot and will not be the only country in Europe that voted to be a part of the European Union and is taken out of it anyway. Now, having said that, the independence movement is not about being a member of the European Union. It's about a much bigger issue. It's about who gets to choose. And that's what we must constantly keep bringing the message back to. Independence isn't about whether we're a member of the European Union or outside the European Union. It's not about whether we're a member of NATO or whether we're not a member of NATO. It's not about whether we're a republic or whether we're a monarchy. You know, I've got my views on all those things. I want to be in the EU, out of NATO, and be a republic. But I recognise that other people have different views on those things. The point is, however, is for the people of Scotland as a whole to make those decisions and no one else. And that's what independence is all about. It's about establishing who has the right to choose, who has the right to decide, who has the right to say what path Scotland will take. Because at the moment we've been taking down a path that we've said that we don't want to go down. And we're taken down that path by people who, quite frankly, don't give a shit about us. And that is not how you make a democratic, fair, responsible country. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in. I would like to live... I mean, somebody asked me when I lived in Spain, why do you support Scottish independence? And it's true. What it comes down to, basically, is I want Scottish independence because I want to live in a normal country. And that's what it's all about for me. I want to live in a normal country. I don't want to live in a country where decisions are made for us by other people who don't care about us and who are not accountable to us. I don't want to live in a country where you have people like Ian Duncan, the failed candidate for Perth, who lost the election and then was made a law and appointed government head. You know, in fact, this happened before. I shouldn't have been surprised. It happened with Michael Forsyth, who's the loser's loser in politics. Michael Forsyth was the leader of the Scottish Conservatives in 1997. He took his party to a historic, epic defeat. He managed to lose his own seat. He managed to lose every single seat belonging to his party. The people of Scotland told him in no uncertain terms, we don't want you, we don't want your party, we don't want your politics. And yet he was appointed to the House of Lords, and during the EU referendum debate, he was arguing that we should go outside the European Union because it's terribly unfair that our laws are made by people that we don't elect. And you're quite right there, Michael. You're quite right there. I want Scottish independence for one reason, well, several reasons. Well, one of the reasons I want Scottish independence is because, I'm sure the SNP are great, the Greens are great, whatever, but fundamentally I don't really trust politicians. And the reason I want independence is because politicians have to be kept close to us, so that they're responsible to us. I always think that the seat of power should be within kicking distance of my foot. And that's what we can achieve with Scottish independence. We need a government whose arse we can kick when it does what we don't want. And that's what happens when we don't have that, we end up with what we've got now. But we can achieve that with Scottish independence. And I believe firmly that we will achieve Scottish independence, that it's come sooner rather than later. Because things are changing so rapidly at the moment. Brexit is shaping up to be an epic disaster. And I think that will open up an awful lot of people's eyes. But we can't sit back and just hope that the British state self-destructs. We have to actively work to make the case for Scottish independence. So I hope that you'll get involved with your local yes groups, you'll campaign for Scottish independence. I certainly don't intend to shut up, I don't intend stopping, although I do probably have to stop right now.